Okay, guys, Young Jack back again. Made a little adjustment with the volume. Willie just got back from a fishing trip, so we're gonna go see him later today. Maybe he'll give me a ride. Um, yeah. Seriously though, he does give me a fishing rod, which is cool. I can catch some fish that way. But first, my parsnips need watering. So I'll water them. Maybe clear out a bit more of my field. Ooh, that got double watered. Hopefully that doesn't hurt. It does not hurt. And we'll go from there. Alright, fill my watering can. Pick some rocks. But not my nose. And, okay, let's see here. What else is there to say about this stuff? Yeah, the very first Harvest Moon game I ever played was Harvest Moon, I want to say 64. I remember my brother having one of the Game Boy ones, and he would not let me play it because he was afraid that I would mess up the save. Which, those Harvest Moon games were different, the Game Boy ones, because the way you would save them is you would just turn off the game. I still don't fully understand how that works, but yeah, it would just turn off the game or Game Boy, and that would save it. So there wasn't really any way to redo it, and of course Shy was like 6 or 7. Of course my brother wouldn't want me to play it, and I don't blame him. But then Harvest Moon 64 came out, and we bought that. It wasn't me who bought it, it was one of my brothers. But it had, I don't know, 3 or 4 save files. So I got to have my own save file. And that was fun. Of course, I never did too well until I got older and replayed it. But then after that, I played Friends of Mineral Town. That was probably the one that I remember the most. I have gone back and played Super Nintendo after that, but that's not one that I really grew up on. I played that well into my teens, probably. When I got a Wii, I decided to get that and on Virtual Console. Mind you, that's why I mentioned the Wii. But yeah, it's always fun games. Like I said the last episode, I'm just not a huge fan of the newer ones. They get too gimmicky. Really, the last one that I ever played, other than Rune Factory, I did enjoy Rune Factory. Hello, little lady. Yeah, I did enjoy Rune Factory. I already met you. I can talk to you, I guess. I did enjoy Rune Factory. It was interesting. It was different. And they did it in a good way. And what I mean is, you could capture the things and all that, or just kill them for experience. Let's see, process my geode. Alright, alumite. Whatever that is. But anything else, and part of it came out of the issue of there was Natsume, who was the North American localization company for Harvest Moon, but they ended up fairly wisely reserving the rights for Harvest Moon in the US, or North American market, however you want to say it. So, Marvelous is the company that actually makes Harvest Moon and publishes it in Japan. So they kind of got shut out of the North American market as far as Harvest Moon goes. So anything in North America that's Harvest Moon is done by Natsume, and anything that's true Harvest Moon is done by Marvelous, but you don't always see those come through because sometimes they don't always want to work with Natsume. That's why you see that's where Rune Factory gets a complicated history. Is Rune Factory is technically not Harvest Moon. It is, but it isn't. It's by the same people as Harvest Moon, and it's very Harvest Moon-like. But originally it's not Harvest Moon. So when Natsume brought it over, they labeled it Fantasy Harvest Moon, which it is and it isn't. So, that's just a weird history of things at that point. Anything good up here? There hardly ever is. Sometimes there's worms that you can dig up, but... Oh, yeah, Willie. Willie! Did I meet you? I guess, maybe. I don't know. I know I did not meet Grump. I mean, George. I think it would be hilarious is if you named yourself the same as somebody else in the town. They recognize that. They're like, hey, my name's George too. But that's not a thing. Sadly. Okay, here we go. He's already had a few and is smoking his pipe. Smoking the pipe. Here's the thing, I'm gonna skip most of these cutscenes. Partly because I've seen them already, partly because they don't add much to it, and also partly because if you guys want to see them, you can play the freaking game yourself, man. I'm not here to show you the story. I'm just here to play the game some and have a good time. Hopefully you guys will too. So I got myself a shell that I can sell. Not by the seashore though. I already met that guy. Anybody else in here? No. Maybe I can find some more stuff. I want a cow. Oh man, I want a cow. They're really expensive though. Okay, Marnie's not here. Hey, look, Sega Genesis up there, or N64 maybe. Anything? Ooh, a horseradish. I met you already. So that your neighbor. She called me neighbor. Let's see here. So, my emulator computer is still a work in progress. It's all software side now. And, well, getting Nintendo controller fully worked out. You can see it here. So there's still all of that to do, as well as figuring out a good way to capture footage from it. I'm thinking of just an AverMedia type deal. But the thing is, do I want the PCI card, or do I want a standalone device? PCI card would be doubly good for capturing game footage. Currently, I'm just using Shadowplay. I have a 970 FTW from EVGA, so that does a pretty good job. But the problem is, if I ever want to do higher end stuff, I don't think it'll do as good of a job at rendering both the game as well as capturing the screen footage. So if I go with an AverMedia capture card, I can just use that for capturing. Use the graphics card, obviously, just for rendering, and go from there. Sell all of this shizzles, and I have a whole bunch of energy left. So we will start just breaking up rocks and stumps, and well, I can't do stumps yet, but so yeah, software side, that's it. I did end up building a little second one. Yeah, I found a Super Nintendo, a broken Super Nintendo on eBay. So I built it into that. But again, I still need... Well, that's not fully complete. I'm going to turn the controller ports on that into USB ports, proprietary, obviously, to my device, but USB ports, and then make extension cables that are plug into that end, and then USB-A plugs on the other end. So I haven't done that yet, but basically everything else on it is done. So I'm not sure exactly what the original plan for that was. I was going to leave it at my parents' house. But if I get the AverMedia capture card, instead of constantly moving my tower back and forth, I might just have one of those devices dedicated to my living room, one of them sitting in here, always connected to record games. Because that was sort of the original plan with it. Was partly I wanted to play games that I never had before. Specifically PlayStation, which sounds funny. I never had PlayStation. PlayStation and Sega. It was always Nintendo in my family. Later on, my brother had PS2, and my other brother had an Xbox. I personally have always had Nintendo. But yeah, that was my original plan with it. So, let's get some light going. Yeah, there we go. Until that happens, I've been Jack. We'll see you for another day here on Sheller Farm, and I will catch you guys later.